What I wanted to share was those sayings and those phrases that to me resonated. It's perfect that you go the wrong direction. If you ring up a cab, if you ring up a taxi, what's the first thing they want to know? Sorry? Where are you going? No, the first thing they need to know is where are you? And that's really important. You need to know where you are. And then the second question is, where are you going? And if you get in that drive with the cab driver taking you, he is going that direction, then he's going that direction, then he's going that direction, and eventually you get to where you're going. But you don't get there from going straight there. You get there from going the wrong direction and correcting course until you get closer and closer and closer. But if you're really clear on where you are, where you're going, they're just essential in business. If I could encourage you to do what someone encouraged me to do, and that is be your future self. Go 5 years from now, close your eyes and think about what it feels like, who you're talking to, where you're living, what your partner looks like, what you're eating, the sort of restaurants you go to, the staff you're engaged with, what role do you have? And if you can transport yourself ahead and just close your eyes and reflect on where you've come from, it's a really cool way of creating a picture of your future. But it's a lot easier to go there and reflect than to stay here and try and project, because you actually get to live it. It's a bit like dreaming. We all know that. It's a killer. But in my view, if you carry out the action, the feeling does follow. And it's a great way of getting out of procrastination. And if you're building a business, you need to be doing it every day. Don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today, because if you do it today and you like it, you can do it again tomorrow. Keith Hayes, one of my mentors, used to tell me that all the time, and it's such a great saying. There is no such thing as about a problem without which comes the gift of solving it. And if you look at your life and your journey, there's been nothing that you've been given that you haven't been able to overcome, whatever it is. Sure, there's sadness, sure, there's regret, sure, there's all sorts of things, but it never ceases to surprise me that whatever we are given, somehow we get through it. The ability to carry out an action long after the feeling in which it's made has passed is a wonderful judge of character. What I love about business and being around people that you trust is you can shake hands and do business. It is difficult to do business because the devil is in the detail, and also the devil is in the emotion. And if you're dealing with a person without character, if it feels different, they'll change the rules. If you're dealing with someone with character, even if it feels different, they'll follow through on their commitment. And it's a wonderful judge of character when you're choosing about who you want to do business with. This is a good one of mine. You really do have to fake it till you make it if you're in business. You got customers, you got staff, you got people. They don't want to know you don't know what you're doing. They don't. It doesn't work that way. So you really do have to have this level of confidence, not arrogance. Confidence about that, hey, you do know a little bit more than them. Maybe you don't know a lot. You only need to know a little bit more, and you can be pretty cool in providing a service. This is why Bob is such a great organisation. Most of us make decisions out of fear. But the trouble is you don't know you're in fear when you're making those decisions, because you're only in your own head. And it's not unless you're around colleagues and advisors and board members that know you, that can be your advocate, that are prepared to be honest with you and ask you questions that you can answer. Because if you just ask your own questions, you already know the answer, and you don't want to ask yourself a question that you don't want the answer to. Sorry, I don't know if that made sense, but you know what I mean. So, and I just think it's great if you're making decisions that are clear-headed, Or if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do? But you need someone around you as an advocate helping you get through those times to make clear-headed decisions. You got to be good at this. Your unique skill, your unique benefit that you provide in business or in service is crucial, and you need to know it inside out. And not only that, you need to be able to articulate it in a way that really clearly gets heard. Otherwise, you spend lots of money and it just falls off the walls. You need to spend money that sticks. So you have to clearly articulate your message in a way that people go, I'd like to use that. The better you get at that, the better your business goes, the more cash flow goes, the quicker you can replace yourself. I hear this all the time. Sitting around the table, people say, if I had the money, I'd do that. If I had the money, I'd do this. As though somehow it's the money that causes the success. In every person that I've seen that's got a successful business, generally they started with zero, and it was the idea that creates the money, not the other way around. And I do believe a really good idea with a clearly articulated business plan is like a magnet for money. In any part of the world, any time of the year, a clearly articulated business plan is like a magnet to money. You need a few other ingredients, of course, but the idea that it's the money that makes the world go around, it just is a fallacy. When I first heard this, it was a bit of a shock that my expectations were actually my limitations, because it is true if you think about it logically. And that's again why it's great to have people around you and be involved in a personal growth journey, because whoever you are is reflected in your business. And whatever you're going through personally gets reflected in your business. And your business is a great way of learning, because you're challenged all the time, just like your kids or your wife challenges you, but you've got a double whammy. You need help. It's really tough, dealing with your family and dealing with business. And really it's two families. If you don't have someone that you can talk to and cry or express what's going on, it's really hard to grow, because we just get more and more retrenched and stubborn and those sort of things, because we don't have any other avenue. And so your personal growth journey is, in my point, quite crucial to you being successful in business. That's quite clear. To be able to wake up in the morning and really love what you're doing, it's crazy. You spend a third, for some of us, half of our life doing it. You may as well enjoy it. And if you're not really enjoying it, find something else that you do love doing. And I was listening to Perry's journey this morning, and I reckon he should have probably been talking to you, because he's got a great story. Peter Toit, my friend that is our welder who came into my business for a while, his mum talked about sleep value. And it's a great thing. You only have your brand and your reputation, your integrity in everything you're dealing with, and everyone's going to have a chip at you. Everyone's going to have a different view, or they're going to hear a piece of information and inflame it and exaggerate it. But having sleep value, knowing that you can go to bed, you've done the right thing, to me is a really valuable commodity to have within yourself. Now, I put this slide up. I don't know if there are any in here, but they are under huge pressure. They have the same KPIs, the same politics that goes on within their banks. And I think particularly in this environment, when credit is so tough for owners, your relationships are really the only thing you can rely upon, and making sure you've got relationships with the right people and the key decision makers. And it wasn't until I finally had someone say, make sure you have the person making the decision. And often that isn't the person you think, it's someone behind a desk buried down in the bank. Make sure they're at your meetings. If they're at your meetings and they're visiting your location, they see your passion, you got a really much better chance of getting either the loan or, in this environment, keeping the loan. They're under incredible scrutiny, and it doesn't make the difference to whether you're going to get it, but if it's close, it's the relationship that really makes a difference. And the banks are now even doing their own personal check. So you might have the best business in the world, but if your integrity or your character is at risk, they're actually checking you out in a whole different way these days. Make sure everyone's there. I saw this, and you will all relate, I'm sure. When you're starting your business, you don't have the best tools. You got the worst tools. You got the cheapest photocopy you could have got on Gumtree. You're buying secondhand stuff, and somehow it's your enthusiasm and your relationship, and everyone just sort of diving in, doing what they can to do the best possible thing on the least amount of resources, and somehow it's the energy that makes it all work. Very soon, you've bought the most expensive photocopier and people are getting angry if it doesn't work, rather than, shipping down to the snap printer and just getting it because you've got a customer walking in. Instead, they go, oh, well, the customer's not going to get it. And I just saw often, once you've got all the infrastructure, how easily people start to blame things not being right for their performance. But when you go back in time, you never had anything went right. But somehow there was a different sort of attitude. So as soon as you start blaming the tools or your team, they're time to go. You probably hear this all the time, and I only say it because it is so true. I've seen my business with a great culture. I've seen my business with a really poor culture. If the business is small enough, you can change it quickly. But whatever's going on is already there. It's really hard to change it with all the same people. So it does mean you've got to bring new people in, but you've got to be really clear what the culture is and transform it, because often the people that are there are part of the problem if you really think it needs to be here. And I'm nearly finished, John, I think, mate. This is also a pretty scary one, and particularly if you're in a growing business, you're often faced with making a decision and you're jumping with faith. And you know that by the time you jump, there's going to be a platform there, but it's not there yet, but you can't wait for it to be there to jump. And half of your time is spent convincing everyone around you, hey, it's going to be okay. There is a platform there. They have to see it, even though you know it's not there. And that's a skill that you really need in your business, because they get scared. And how many times have you not disclosed that you don't have enough money to pay the wages next week or next month, but some sales are going to come in and then you'll be able to pay it? Like, it's just the world that you live in. And you really need to be good in actually having people feel safe, knowing that the platform's there. When I look back at my life and I've shifted offices and I pull out documents and I see what I wrote down, I constantly get surprised that those things happened. And there's so much research on it. I won't go on about it, but when you've created your future self and you look back on it, write it down. The brain will not process it if you don't. Unless you're doing it every day, going forward, thinking about it, going forward, it just can't. You write it down, there's a different neuro connection, and somehow it happens. Write it down. I think I've spoken about this before. I won't rabbit on, but we are 100% responsible. And the quicker we get to know that everything going on out there is as a result of what's going on in here, the quicker you can live without pain. It's the avoidance of that belief that gives you the most pain. We're deluded. And this is from my dad. After he retired, I said, if there was anything you could tell me after all your years in business, what would it be? And this is what he said. And it's such a nice thing to know. Both when things are really good, knowing that they won't always be that way, so you can put some in for a rainy day. But when things are really bad, to know that it's a cycle. And please, WA, hurry up and get to the other side of the cycle. I see this in all business owners when you're passionate about what it is you do. And it is the persistence, it is the passion, the determination that ultimately gets to where you want to go, and not giving up. And for some reason, we've got a pass. We don't need to be a scientist. We don't need anything. We just really need to know that my passion and my enthusiasm and my determination, providing I've got a clear outcome at the end, I can get there. Providing it's realistic and all those sorts of things. But to know that it isn't a direct path, it's going the wrong way every single time, also is a bit of a relief. Okay, so this is my summary. This is the end of my talk, and I'll be happy to take any questions. Nothing's off limits. If you want to be successful in business, these are the things. I reckon you need to get involved in your association or the business people that do what you do, so you get to see what's happening and who's best practice and who's the influencers, and you'll be surprised. Well, you probably already know, but there's a huge amount of benefit from being involved in your association. Bob is great. If I didn't have trusted advisors and life coaches and business coaches and people like Michael Gerber and all those things that we need as tools to be good at what we do, it's really tough if you don't have that. Personal growth, trust your instincts. I think this is something that we don't do enough of. I certainly didn't, but you know your business better than anybody else. And you've been doing it for longer than most people. And when people come in and want to give you some advice, it may be the best advice, but your instincts will tell you whether it's great, shit, we should do that, or oh, something's not right. But you go along because you think they know better. Trust your instincts. Michael Gerber, one of the best books I ever read, Work Yourself Out of Your Role. You know, just keep working yourself out of the role because your business is supposed to be working for you. Be different, don't be better. Now, if you can be better and different, it's great, but being different is really the way to cut your niche in business. Spend less than your mate, that's a bit obvious. I didn't get that right a couple of times. Don't let others talk you out of trying new stuff. Geez, the number of times you get talked out of things that could work and you just got to try them. Don't get talked out of them. Plot the path. Write it down. Be passionate, be persistent, and expect that it's going to work out. Thank you.